The reason I'm making this video is because it started as a strong dislike for the fact that 2K25, my career, is so predatory and has had a carrot hanging on a stick for me and the general public for a while. The pop-up windows incessantly calling for you to get the new battle pass so you can get the extra things so it can make you look cool and you can win, have hijacked most of this game unless you're an old head that plays nothing but eras or something, which for this video is one of the only times I've delved into such a thing because I want to prove a point, not only to you as the viewer, but also to myself. If you're interested in a couple of the scams 2K has pulled on me, maybe I'll link them below because I don't want to run them in the ground anymore. But overall, I'm making this as a comment to the fact that these games feel more disingenuous than they ever have. You might ask, well, what do you mean? Is this a lack of a love for the game of basketball in video game form, or for 2K, or for the games in general, as the games themselves have become more and more numerous over time? Even as I logged in on just for a little recap before I jump into some of my deeper opinions on the matter and the game in general, I felt like my agenda was hijacked by getting the little VC you get from playing the game on the daily and weekly, so that you can continue progressing through the game without having to spend money. In all reality, I'm not fussing here, but a carton of eggs doesn't even cost what it used to, so why would you spend money on digital assets that as soon as PS goes down for a day or two, mind you, this has happened very recently, you can't even play these characters? You are in essence spending money on something that isn't even real and will go away in a couple years. Well, you may say, I enjoy it, or you may just have plenty of money to spend and enjoy flaunting it. I digress. I'm just a small YouTuber who can't get the aspect ratio right on OBS. Please subscribe for all the hard work on this video. Well, as I feel we're definitely in a stage of diminishing returns for tech advances with video games, if I got any more real, the keen eye really can't tell the difference. But I'm here to deliberate on that even further. Which, as we analyze games and our external views of them with our opinions, we do always have to look internally first. Because everything works in steps. Like, see these steps here. Or this one, which is kind of reaching. This one's totally reaching. But it took this, from this. And also all of these, which I completely regret, but because ChatGPT said they had the best offline NBA My Careers, here we are. So, I'm not taking for granted the fact that we can take any NBA star and play with them, and that in itself is a feat and is amazing. So, that's pretty cool if you think about it, but I decided to go back to before 2K was doing it. And I'm trying to follow Kobe in the video in his illustrious career, which he's a legend. I recently got the Mamba book, so I'm fired up on a Kobe kick right now. Before the PS5 controller, we had this puppy. This is what we used to get it done on the PS2. And I am going back to a classic, an oldie, a goodie, because my local GameStop now reminds me that I am, in fact, a relic, and anyone who covers this type of stuff that I do is also a relic. Isn't this jarring, the fact that you can play Golden State, this era of Golden State versus Kobe? This is jarring, but it is funny and cool and epic, but it's very jarring and very not immersive. Well, before you could get jarred by Kobe's illustrious career that he never had against Golden State, but and that's probably going to start unnecessary fire. You had this. You had, before 2K was doing it, one of my first memories of basketball, other than playing the actual sport at school casually on broken cement, before 2K22 was a free game on PS Plus, and I got wrapped back up in this madness, before graphics were great. This whole video I tried to center around Kobe, like I said, but thinking back, maybe you just got home from school. Maybe you were like me and this was the only game you could get your hands on for basketball. Maybe it's dark outside and you can't go outside and actually play basketball, so you were on this. This game existed before it was cool to be a nerd. They had the game, and some of the gameplay can be one-dimensional. Look at it. It's a PS1 game. But ultimately, it has a little charm to it. The characters who are here rocking your favorite jerseys, masquerading as the players you know and love with their limited voice lines, before hitting key animations on modern-day 2K that will make parts of the game pop off. As it was intended with the D-pad on PS1, it's aged a little poor, but with turning on the analog stick on PS2, it's actually not that bad. Now, does it look like Kobe? No. But this is basketball, and seeing it on this landscape, I mean, there was NBA Live 1999, but it wasn't my game. And this one looked and felt ever so slightly better. Is the game mode by 2K? Or is the game made by 2K? No. But also, right now, that's not my point. I'm reaching back for the very essence of what it was like to play basketball digitally. This had the feel. This is on Play Now, which this game had a franchise mode, but no NBA eras. Me feel old saying that, but this is 25 years old. Back in the day, if I cranked up a PS1 game, it wasn't to get VC. It wasn't to have my day hijacked by whatever the game company wanted me to play and to get their goals done, or else it would mean falling further behind in the pay-to-win nightmare. To appreciate this, though, I'm quite aware you have to have a level of appreciation for either basketball, digital advancement, or mixing the magic ingredient of all first experiences that we have, precious, precious nostalgia, which is for sale everywhere. What makes my game library special and almost useless handing off to someone else. Like getting good at a career that's niche in the U.S., the perfect way to make good money, but also make yourself completely and utterly unhireable to the general public because you're overqualified. Your parents don't tell you that when you're hooping growing up. Back to what I'm saying. This is about the game. The bells and whistles are, in fact, here. It has everything in it to make it sick, but what I logged on to have fun with was 1v1 with Michael Jordan. And you didn't just have to have Michael Jordan, but the fun of it was 1v1ing Michael Jordan. But the cool thing was you could come up with whatever matchup you wanted and play them 1v1. Now, in this setting, what value this had to me was the magic of the space. They didn't have many settings you could have in Blacktop, but aside from the characters, this was the most relatable thing you could be doing. Also, getting dunks felt sick. Now, to the accuracy of anything played today, no, it's not there. I know there's only a list of moves at the hoop and only a list of moves when you're shooting, and saying a list is being flattering, really. No offense to the game. It's just a time period and the hardware you're working with here, I think. Side note, the soundtrack was fucking fire. Even recording the gameplay was hard to turn the soundtrack down. The lack of definition that the PS1 version of basketball brings could be a pain to look at for anyone who, like I said, doesn't have the nostalgia for it, or I think if you're born in the generation post the Matrix movie, it's just hard to look at anything if you don't have a general interest in the advance of technology, which, luckily, I do. The only games I can't actively sit and watch or have trouble having the effort to sit and watch are more likely like old Metrovanias, but old side-scrollers still aren't completely that bad to me, but I understand everyone has their preference with that sort of thing. Back to the Blacktop with Michael and the dream match I have going, pitting him against Kobe. They nailed the sound effects, they nailed the soundtrack, they nailed the background ambiance, and on top of it, it was easier to focus on a 1v1 than the 5v5 with how little this had been expanded upon, I think. I'm not just glazing this because it was part of my childhood. At the time, I think this was a definitive way to enjoy playing basketball digitally, but times bring change, of course. To be able to pit anyone you want to play against any other player at the time is innovative as hell. I know you could do it with the teams and on the court, but this was before NBA Street took the scene, along with NFL Street. And if you weren't big into sports and you liked games, this could be your only exposure to this type of thing. Why I reached back this far is what got me on this subject topic. I saw a video that was like, does new 2K really have the best graphics? It's bad, but I wonder if it even has the best feel. So going back to this for a refresher course felt great. Would I ever play it back regularly and it not be just a one and done? No, I don't think so. It's also not a live service either, like every other modern day game. This game is a time capsule that you pick up when you want to go back, and that's just what I did. Like I said, what got me on this topic, other than my deep-rooted obsession with Kobe and my excuse to get on the game and live out a fantasy where I get to make him win every possible matchup despite any clear logic whatsoever because video games, I did some research and found out that as VC was being invented as a concept on older 2Ks, there was a time, in fact, that 2K wasn't as greedy, actually. Of course, NBA Live was still a competitor in this space. Battlefront 2 and the fiasco of it being pay to win with the loot boxes hadn't really came up yet, I think. There was a video that popped up in my feed that was something like, 2K14 versus 2K24, which one really looks better? And if I only knew the rabbit hole that it was going to send me down, it had to be more than most people end up experiencing over something like this. Thanks to ChatGPT, it's insulting how often I use it. I had found out the general consensus online was that 2K14 had the best My Career. I understand this will fall coincidentally based on anyone's opinions about the game, with a close second is 2K16. Maybe I'll cover some more of that if the video gets some love. And the third was 2K17, then 19 and 20 respectively. Of course, the game goes fully online by that point, covering anything after. Well, coincidentally, 2K14 was a game from the video, so it's a two birds, one stone moment. I'm going to have to get down to the bottom of this myself. No second-hand experience. I popped in the game and I was blown away by a few things. Now you can see for the past few years I've been a little on the hype train with 2K, so they used to get more money out of me for more than just a disc. Whether it be for battle passes or upgraded release titles that give you extra shit as soon as you start playing that you otherwise would have had to pay for, in reality this is the first time I've spent on them since the release of 2K25 for the base game, and that money went to the seller on eBay. Not only have some people argued that this is the best looking 2K to date, because apparently it comes from the days where they actually sent professionals to the real life stadiums and their hardwood to practice with lighting and study the shading so they get it right, I asked the same question that the video that I saw asks. Why don't they still do that? You can see this is one of those they finally got it right moments. Up until this point, I've been passively playing some 2K25 shots I got with Kobe or in a game with Kobe. Some real 2K porn if you're into that sort of thing. The type of stuff that I wish the people I follow who constantly rant about the game would post while they go on about what's terrible about the game. Granted, they do usually only play My Career or my team. So what's really more the problem, them or me for looking at it? But as I've switched to some 2K14 shots, you'll see that there's a different type of tender love and care here. Someone who was watching me play even said as they were walking by the screen that it was actively more pleasing to look at. Have the stadiums really changed that much? This has jumped back a generation or so. That's not it. This isn't a PS5 game, it's a PS4 game. The era of basketball was different, yes, but I've enjoyed basketball on TV as recently as this past year when I had cable. Subscribe so I can get cable back. But all jokes aside, these colors used in this game are warmer. It feels more detailed even using less assets. The sweat feels more real. Kinda sus that I'm saying that. Everything in that video that had been said is real. I've probably sounded kind of down up until this point mentioning things that were wrong with the modern 2K, but this was a moment of shock where I was pleased. Now, right stick dribbling isn't a thing in this generation, and it does seem like there's a learning curve with the game, but it's snappy. When something epic happens, the crowd actually explodes with excitement like a real stadium, too. I know 2K25 has went with a real, I guess if you just went off the shots I put up in some of the gameplay, they want to go to a sim type approach, like simulation basically. Going for realistic dribble moves, but if you're honest about it, even after spending a lot of time leveling, the controls on modern 2K feel sluggish. It's kind of like where in modern day Call of Duty they can't ever seem to get the time to kill right. I better stop my rant right there on that one. That's another video for another time if I can even decide to go do that. Yeah, sluggish controls. The colors on the screen don't seem as appealing to look at, and playing this game with less animations and feeling it be more snappy is nice. Now, I did have to turn the difficulties down for the gameplay on all of it. Sue me. I'm here for a good time and a comparison check, not to have an aneurysm. But even how they do with the animations with the jerseys is nice. Am I glazing here or is 2K fried? Comment down below. If you were looking at parts of this game and you had the broadcast camera on, you could even be fooled for a moment that maybe it's a stretch saying this. It just looks real. You're obviously playing a game, yes, but I mean it looks more real than modern 2K to me. It's not agonizingly bright and in your face with the light. I don't know if it's actually better, but I had more fun playing with 2K on 2K14. But is that the newness of playing a different game with the different mechanics and enjoying that, or was it a better era of basketball in digital form? I think the way this game looks is more appealing, and I was sold on it from the moment I saw that video that I mentioned. That's why I didn't mind buying the game, even if it's technologically 11 years in the past. I find that to be devastating for the franchise as a whole. Because it says something about it. When you get on a game this old and it looks better, it almost seems deliberate. Like maybe they made a problem to sell us a solution later. After all, they are very good at selling, and they have been for a very long time now, as that's why this has gotten so lucrative for them. In a way, though, this is our fault. I'm essentially mad over paying them money for newer editions of the game when they may not have actually been any better for real. In my defense, luckily, I wasn't around for this generation of 2K, and maybe you weren't either. Yeah, the dribble moves aren't elaborate, but I still get this feeling that I want to rush in like Kobe, antagonizing the defense for a foul, as they either let me get away with a shot or they send me to the foul line. If you like the games and you haven't played this one, and you aren't spoiled by a lot of the new age shit, like you can actually appreciate some older things like me, I dare say this might be for you. I'm glad I have it in my list of games, because I think if I showed anyone like I'm showing you right now, they wouldn't believe it. Now, there is one thing I was bothered by. I could take Kobe and Michael to the blacktop in NBA Live 2000, and I could even do it in the present-day 2K25, so I have to give them credit getting this right. But believe this, unless they need to be unlocked somehow and I'm missing something, I could not for the life of me get them to work in 2K14, however. There was a sort of a workaround. Sort of. Not really, but yes really. I could get the Bulls Mike's era to play the Lakers from Kobe's era, which put a Band-Aid on my itch, sort of. It's still not the same, but I for sure had to run it up. It's not the same as having them play outside in the dark with no referees shooting underneath street lights, but in this instance it had to do. This still does serve as one thing video games can be good for, and that's an escape from reality. It's very fun to be able to take people from different eras and pit them against each other. I used to love doing that with old Fight Night. I'm not really in on boxing culture, but with like Muhammad Ali and like Mike Tyson type shit, I'm sure you can still do this type of thing with wrestling games too, but that's not much in my bag since I got older. But maybe I should give it a shot sometime. I do have to say, I like how both of them look in this game on the court. And it feels pretty alright too. Like I said, you are missing some features you get in the newer 2Ks. And also, Michael shoots like a demon in this. He nearly spanked me, and I'm pretty sure I turned down the difficulty. He was still shooting the lights out, which is realistic. As realistic as making the Titans fight each other can be. They're going to shoot, and there is going to be some crazy shit on screen, and it does ultimately come to the player who they're playing against. If you're playing split screen versus their knowledge of basketball and players and plays and the difficulty of the game, so it's hard to transcribe a real deal winner here. I'm sure it would be fun to have a computer like compute who would actually win, but there's some fun living out the fantasy of maybe making whoever you want to win, and not be obsessed with the stats. This ability doesn't really exist, but it would be cool in this 2K to pit some of the modern players and teams against other teams. When I was looking online, there's a thing saying you could mod the game to do this, that, and the other. I'm a console gamer, so I only have access to a couple games that do mods like your Bethesda type of titles or BG3, but you have to be in a particular type of mood to engage with that type of content, I think. Just like this one. But when you are engaging with these games, you can kind of set something up and you only have to think some of the time. I mean, if you were running your own draft or something and you took this seriously, I could see it getting very involved. But basketball has always been like skating or driving to me, unless I'm in an intense multiplayer match like some of the ones that have happened on my channel. A lot of this you can just go off a feel and sort of turn your brain off and play, which is nice. Yeah, with multiplayer you gotta communicate and call out your moves and figure out what's going on, and the issue of skill versus skill point is a lot more prevalent, I think. Especially in multiplayer types of lobbies. I haven't delved into much of the play now scene or fantasy draft on modern 2K with people. It just didn't hit as much. I tried a fantasy draft with a buddy in the Michael era a while back, probably 2K23 or 2K24, and we made it through the draft, yeah, whatever, but then we started simulating games. Don't get me wrong, I think in that scene it's probably really overbearing to want to play every single game, but I hate missing shit. But let's say we fast forwarded to a key game, whatever, where we had a matchup, then the skill gap of him having played the games for years and years without taking a break like I did stacked up. As far as the skill set, even if I got Michael from the draft, I got absolutely fucking decimated. I'm not even sure he was trying. So when you have a first impression like that, that shit basically sticks with you. And it stung, and the getting too many notifications from that and it feeling committal actually overrode the feeling that all the games had provoked for me up until this point. Let's pick it up and play. It's hard to quantify that as an emotion. It just happens. Like when you really like a game for a while and you get in the habit of picking it up and it loses what you had in it somehow. Maybe the story runs out, or you finish some DLC, or you 100%ed, or maybe it isn't even progressing that stopped you. It just doesn't feel the same. It's not as fun. Remember fun? Some days I have to remind myself behind all the working towards a trophy or getting VC.
Jordan against Nash. A beautiful fadeaway jumper by Jordan.
Yeah, he's almost putting on a little shit.
Back to current day 2K, equipped with blacktop. You gotta love that they kept it alive somehow. I know that's really what keeps modern day 2K on top, people say. Well, it's not really a new game, they just update the roster. Yeah, doing that and athlete trades happening in real time relatively and it affecting the teams your friends are on is actually a bigger deal than we let on. Like my friend had Luka on the Mavs and lost him because of the Lakers trade, and it changed his experience offline while still connected to internet, of course, just playing the computer. So having everybody here and you can play them on the street is cool. Now, of course, I should have mentioned this earlier when I was playing the earlier title. My mind does fill with headcanon that if you had Michael and Kobe in an alternate universe and they were playing street ball, it would probably be a commercial event. And there may be no world that this would be quiet in, but at least if it was happening in a court in their backyard or something, maybe it would be quieter. That's just how I explain this massive crowd of people that's appeared for the game. I honestly wish you could turn them off. I remember playing street ball when I first got on 2K25, and one of the things that pissed me off in my career is that these people watching on the sidelines during street ball will actually come onto the court while you play. I think that's new for this game, and whoever thought of that and how that slipped through the cracks, because basically someone somewhere had to design that. How crazy is that shit? It's like, get these people off the court while we play. What the hell? Also, you gotta mention, the elephant in the room, even though 2K and NBA Live are made by different people, there is no street feeling here anymore. It's so commercialized. It's almost a perfect representation for what 2K has become, really. It's a money thing. Don't get me wrong, I know that the people on teams who do this sort of thing have families and they get bent over and screwed just like I did when I worked for corporate America, and the way things are, pay their bills. But I just wish street ball was depicted more in a street way. Really, this is just outside in casual clothes, a 1v1 between Michael and Kobe on a court that's way overly decked out and painted up when it should be just regular. Okay, I'm going to say the thing about Call of Duty that I wasn't going to get into, and I may get into at another time based on the love this video gets. This game missed, and the last new entry missed it. As soon as I logged on, I noticed it. 2K14 had it, and older CODs did too. These games slept on a golden opportunity, a chance to simplify their experience and their UI. They could have made things feel so back to basics if they wanted. That was one of the things that made 2K14 so great on top of all the other things I mentioned. This game could have had that, and I find that to be a common theme that games with a lot of sequels have, or games that just have a lot of pieces in the franchise. You make your shit look less like a classic vehicle that used to take you to the beach on your day off, and more like a fucking rocket ship. Adding in all these crazy people when a few fans on a park bench would have killed it. Maybe one obnoxious one that screams at the top of his lungs when Kobe makes a shot, or just none at all. That would make the air thicker when you play. What if it gives the player more time to think? Won't they be bored? I think it would have made the game more intense. It would have made Blacktop the same as it used to be a long time ago when it was good too. Don't get me wrong, I know Park tries to replicate a little bit, but this is my opinion on Park. I'm not going to shit on it, I'm going to tell you just how it is. You go, you wait in line for a game, unnecessarily long when they could have had a simple matchmaking system. Then you end up in a game with someone who more than likely has exact opposite ideals of me in a financial way. This guy is on his 4th or 5th build at the 2K25 casino, purple badged, and he's going to mop the floor with you and he brought a friend. I get that it's doable for you to compete with this, but it's like a nightmare run on Phasmo. Good people on YouTube can do them, and every space has a person who plays nothing but one game who can compete, but what kind of life would you be living, honestly? Now I will bring this up with a positive. The shots when they make it to the hoop or releases in the new 2K have more variations, which I like. When the shot makes it to the hoop, it has an obvious extra number of things it can do, even from last year to this year. It always used to feel like if it was a make, it was a make, and if it wasn't, it wasn't, and it was so predictable that you could really kind of see it before or during and know. Whereas on this game, you have more chances with the ball, like shots that are off the ball could variate, do something different and go in or miss, which just feel way more realistic, which follows that simulation type of theory I was going on about with this. I like the realistic ball, as crazy as that sounds. I know it makes it less predictable and harder to get a technique down, and it levels the playing field for everyone, but I don't care. I'm not a sweat anyway. but at the same time, I don't like how they calculated in RNG for something that's skill-based. Like, if I'm not mistaken, so many shots are calculated to miss, even if you have your technique down, which is crazy if you think about that. Now, if you're still watching before I got off 2K14 for one video, I did want to peek my head into my career to see if this 2K also had the secret in the sauce with my career. Now, granted, this is not my full look at this. If you'd like me to take a deeper dive, let me know, but on the surface level, here's what I found out. In this one, don't get me wrong, there are some things you can't shake even with time. The cutscenes are corny as hell.
There it is. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And I ain't gonna let nobody write it but me. It starts with me. This is my story.
I've been looking all over for you, man. It's New York City, baby.
It is what it is. Plus, this is a 66 OVR or whatever, with absolutely no bag that couldn't hit a highlight if it slapped him in the face. One time I literally saw the ball go through me. I'll have to clip that. It's always interesting how they start you off in this game mode because every NBA star has a different, but everyone loves a rags to riches type of story. They start you off in some sort of pre-draft all-star game, which I bombed every goal they gave me because if you're new to my career, you just don't play it. The common theme starting off is that your player sucks. So I tried to make a power forward with an everything in the basket kind of play style, much like my LeBron James template build in my other videos. I don't really like how when I call for a pass, they get on to me for that. They put a bad grade on the screen or whatever. It's like when the AI tells you that you're wrong on chess.com. It's not that you're not wrong. It's just the fact that I'm doing what I want to do, and this is an art form. Like the game Kobe decided not to shoot and everyone gets mad at him. The game is getting mad at me for playing the way I wanted to play. Don't get mad at my art because it's a percentage wrong. Now the caveat to that is it does make you feel like you're a bigger piece of the puzzle. Now I do like the look and feel of this, and I feel like if you did get in more to figure this thing out, it could actually be rewarding. Aside from the fact due to the multiplayer servers being down, you can't play with other people from my understanding. However, no microtransactions being shoved in your face, no toxic multiplayer scene to deal with, as you're getting goals that 2K has set for you if they've hijacked your agenda that day with some event that will inevitably more than likely not reward you for your time. Hell, when I got drafted to my team, they gave me 5,000 VC or something for starting my character. And from what I could tell, you can start a character and get them rolling, and it might just be more forgiving and giving of VC in this landscape because it's not plugged up to an economy. What I liked was the personality test to get on my team too. I thought that was actually pretty sick. Also got to turn the Utah Jazz down because my player was so not playing for them. There was one thing I didn't like with this process though. I feel like old Siri sounded better than the people interviewing you.
Rebuild our front court. We could really use a player with your talent and work ethic that would come in and make an impact down low.
That's just time adding up on this game. I don't know, maybe back then they could have done some voice acting. Maybe they didn't know if this was going to take off or not. Who knows? But I stuck around long enough to get drafted to my team and get introduced. Then I figured I needed to get to editing this video as it took days to film and was just time consuming altogether. If you enjoyed this video, give me a like, comment, or sub. I'm going to try to keep getting better for you. I think I'm building a format. It's taken me a while to learn, and I appreciate your patience. I look to get even better in the future. Love you guys. Bye.